I have no idea what's popular, trendy, modern. All I know is what I like. And it's the diamond shape specifically. And then it's just some different colors of metal.
I think if I get remarried, I seriously will probably just do a gold band. I just always was more simple.
I'll have to give him some guidelines of what I do and I don't like. I don't like a marquee. I do like square.
I have no idea if Christine's dating. I imagine that she would be, specifically because that was her goal in leaving, was to go find a soulmate.
I was constantly holding out an olive branch to Christine, constantly wanting the relationship, constantly like trying to ask her, what can I do? And all she ever told me was, I'm just jealous of you.
If it bothered her that she didn't have a relationship with me, she should have said, hey, why don't we have a relationship? Can we be friends? I want you to know, I would have rejected her friendship anyway, to be completely honest, because I couldn't trust her.
Robin plays this really weird card where she forgets or she doesn't know why, and that's a typical MO for her. I can't even bring anything up with Kody about Robin because she's perfect, she's supportive, she's the only one who's been loyal. Like, he just shuts it down. There's no communication.
Hi friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Thursday, October 31st, 2024. Kody Brown thinks that Christine Brown left him so that she could just go off and find a soulmate. Isn't that hysterical? It had nothing to do with the way that she was treated, and the only reason that she left was so that she could go find love again. Fans are a little divided about this new storyline on Sister Wives. It's of Christine and David and their very fast-paced relationship and their blossoming love for one another. Some people absolutely love it and they're so glad to see Christine ready. Others are a little bit more cautious and have little red flags popping up and are concerned about the speed of this relationship. Whether you are pro Christine or anti Christine, or I love Christine, but whoa, it's all good. Everyone's entitled to an opinion. And Christine apparently is loving this new storyline because it's no longer focused on her heartache and it's focused on her future. And in fairness, when you have spent the better part of so many seasons on a reality show in the worst moments of your life, it would for sure feel good to be able to look back and see happy memories that you're involved in. Now, Christine and David have been married for a year, and their relationship definitely did move fast. They appear to be extremely happy. And this new season is detailing their plans for their wedding. And in next week's episode or Sunday's episode, they go ring shopping. And something I noticed in this new preview clip is that each one of the women is talking about what they would want for a wedding ring. And something I've noticed about the Sister Wives show is that there's a lot of competition, so much competition between each one of the people in the family. And it's an inbred system within the women to compete with one another because they did it for such a long time, right? Each one of them competed for the others against the other to get Kody's attention. And that could have meant a lot of different things. Who is going to let Kody be their best customer? Who is going to take care of Kody? Who is going to be the best cook? There was just, who is going to be the thinnest? Who is going to be the kindest? Who is going to be the sweetest? Who is going to be the sassiest? And then there's the aspect of always looking at what someone else has and you don't have. Comparison. It would be nearly impossible in the system to not compare because, well, let's be honest. If you see your husband spending a lot of money on someone else and you have debt that you're carrying because your husband isn't helping you, or say you have 6 children with someone and your husband doesn't claim them legally, and then he goes on to adopt 2 people, 3 kids that are not legally his own, and he takes them and he's added to their birth certificates, but yet he's not on your children's birth certificates. The wives all said it didn't matter to them. They said it didn't matter. They didn't care. It made no difference, right? But I do think it mattered to the kids. And something I've noticed and I've learned about by watching McKelty's Patreon is that one of her biggest challenges when she was growing up before they went public was that there was an imbalance in the legitimate children versus the non-legitimate children. And the kids that were not on her certificate could not claim him anywhere. And so when they would go out in public, she couldn't call her dad dad. She had to call Kody her uncle. When she was out at a park with Kody, Kody was an uncle, not her dad. That's confusing for children. And obviously, legitimate children, because they have access to healthcare and to bank accounts and to the public, and they don't have to hide, they might get treated better. Mary's only child wore nicer clothes, according to Maddie and to McKelty. They got to wear name brand clothes, whereas Christine's kids wore hand-me-downs. Imbalances in the amount of money also played huge roles. One issue that McKelty has expressed and other kids is that Mary took an equal amount of money from the family budget, but only had one kid. And while it seems like on the show, everyone claimed that it didn't matter that Mary got more money and they understood why she would get the same because everyone's fair. From the child's perspective, McKelty has talked about how the lack of money influenced what they could eat during the week, whereas Mary's kitchen was always fully stocked with tons of food. Her cabinets and cupboards were empty. Their child, Mary's child, has nice brand new shoes. They're wearing hand-me-downs and clothes that are holy and shoes that are worn out. The case of the haves and the have-nots, which happens in polygamy all the time. And it's a factor that is in play that is underlying so much of the tension that we don't have them address on the show. Christine was never a legitimate wife. She never had legal rights, and her kids were never claimed by Kody. Kody is invisible legally to the kids that he has. And now, until he's claimed in court, it'll be the first time he'll ever be legally attached to any one of Christine's kids. For Christine, she comes from a place where she's love-starved. She's come from a relationship where she was not loved. She was in a loveless marriage and she was starved of affection. And for the very first time in her life, she has an opportunity to feel love. And this can be a very dangerous place for women that leave abusive relationships and polygamy. Specifically in this culture, I've spoken to advocates and other women that have left polygamy, and they've all shared with me that the one challenge that they had leaving their polygamy was being able to establish healthy boundaries in new relationships because of the codependency indoctrinated into the culture of polygamy. Women are basically brought up from the time they're born to believe that they cannot exist without a man. And so it's very common that when a woman leaves, because their entire existence, they've been told they are not capable of being on their own, and that in order to be complete, they need to have a partner and a soulmate. There's pressure that they feel where they need to find someone. And in some cases, because when people leave, they don't have a good framework of what a healthy relationship is versus a non-healthy one, sometimes people can rebound into what appears to be a really great relationship. And then on the surface, and then a few years in, they realize they've made a mistake. Now, I'm not going to say that Christine is making a mistake. I'm just saying that Christine is coming from an unhealthy place because she's just gotten out of a relationship. And so right now she's really excited about the fact of having a new partner. And when you've been where she is, how can you blame her for not wanting to have happiness? She wants to feel loved, and we all want to feel loved. I want to show you a little bit more of the ring shopping.
I'm just so excited.
It's going to be a good day, great day, awesome day.
In plural marriage with the weddings, you don't feel celebrated. I just got married. That was it. And I didn't invite a lot of people. It's just what was accepted and what was done. When you're a plural wife, the focus isn't on you. It's to be on you. It's supposed to be on the family. But then when I left Kody, I really thought about the next relationship and what it would look like. And I wanted all of it. Bridal shower, or the wedding shower, and I just want to do it all.
Christine deserves to have all of the happiness and to have her dreams fulfilled and to get what she deserves to have a wedding. She deserves to have love. She deserves to have all of these details like the bridal shower and the wedding dress shopping and all of that. Like she deserves to have all of that if that is something that she wants and that's a ideal she's put out for her future because she didn't get to have it before. I think one of the details that is missing in the dialogue here is that it they overlay it, but they kind of don't include all the facts. What Christine is really saying here, at least to me, is that she never got to experience real life. So she's leaving a cult at 50, and it's almost like she's a teenager because she's going into the wild world and she doesn't have the guardrails that she's had up her whole life that guided her and told her how to live and what to think about things and what to feel about things and how to dress and how to act and how to behave and what not to do. You know, the rules. She lived in a high control group that dictated everything about her life, from how she dressed to what she ate to who she was friends with to how she shopped for clothing and how she set up her family, what friends she was allowed to have, the type of music she could engage in, the multimedia she could consume, the type of language she could use, like swearing or not swearing, and keeping things as righteous as possible, right? And when you come out of a high control group and you've never been able to live on your own, really, it's overwhelming. And what Christine, I think, is experiencing is like what I think I've seen in a lot of the people that I've either worked with that have left polygamy or other cults that I've covered, in that when you lose those guardrails, there's an intensity where you want to experience everything and you want to experience it now because you feel like you were denied all of these things and you were told what you can and cannot do. And so there's almost like a rebellion where it's like, well, you said I couldn't do this, so I'm going to go do that. And it is a little bit like being a teenager because you finally have the opportunity to make your own decisions. And when you don't want to think about what your next move is, sometimes full steam ahead is easier because then you don't have to sit in the trauma or really dissect what it is that you've gone through. And that is not to say that that's what Christine is doing. I believe Christine is certainly trying her best to move through and like get through the trauma. And she's even posted about that recently on her Instagram, that she's committed to working through her trauma and being a better mother and being a better woman, wife, and all of it for herself, for her kids. And that's admirable. Um, I wish there was a component in Sister Wives where they would just use the language or have some experts that talked about what she's actually going through, which is deconstruction and reintegration into society, which can make it look like she's being very impulsive and maybe a little bit different than who she is because she's stripped herself of all of her roots. And she's like, well, I'm going to take off these clothes that you gave me of this cult, and now I'm going to be a whole new person. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think some fans that are reacting to these changes are reacting to that. They're not recognizing her because they're not seeing the same woman that they've seen for 14 years. What I see is a woman that's just so intoxicated with her new life that she wants to experience everything and she wants to experience it now because she was denied all of it for years. And the hope is that all of this will work out in the long run for her and David. And we can only live in a space of we hope this works, right? We hope they're happy. We hope it works out in the long term. And you know what? And if it doesn't work out and if it does fail, guess what? It's a learning lesson and it's an opportunity and it's a way for her to grow as a person. Because if you don't fail and if you spend all of your life trying to be perfect like they were in the cult, you don't learn. You stay stunted. So failure is a part of life. And if this relationship does fail, a lot of relationships fail. And so while it's easy to see the speed and be like, oh, it's going too fast, on the other hand, even if it is going too fast and even if it does fail, she's going to learn from it. And that's not a bad thing. And she'll have more life experience to work with for the next relationship. And if this does work out, great. I'm so glad she got it right the first time. There's a reason why people are drawn to reality TV, I think. It's because we can be voyeurs into somebody else's life. We can lose ourselves in somebody else's story. And sometimes it is that we can see ourselves in that person. And we can develop attachments to the people that we're seeing on the television through the narrative that's portrayed on a show. And that attachment can make us feel protective of that person. Sometimes fans will be so, so happy and they're so elated to see where she's at. And other times, maybe fans will see and resonate with something they went through in their life and feel like, whoa, the breaks. Where are the breaks? I can share with you where my thought process was a couple days ago when I initially saw the last week's episode of how happy Christine was and why I thought it was like, whoa, this is really fast. It comes from my own experience. So when I was in my 20s, I was in an abusive relationship for about 5 years. From the time I was about 21, 20 to about 25, 26. And that relationship really defined who I was, and it was very abusive in all facets: physical, sexual, emotional, psychological. And when I got out of that relationship, I wanted the opposite opposite of who I had been with. So when Christine says something like, I wanted a guy that was bald, that liked motorcycles and had tattoos because it was different than what Kody was, she sort of manifested that. And I can totally resonate because when I got out of my relationship, that's what I wanted. And when I finally found a guy that I thought was the exact polar opposite to the guy that I was with, the intensity that I felt when I found this person was overwhelming. And I fell in love with someone and the fantasy of someone very quickly before I ever really knew who they were. And the relationship was long distance. And so while we would meet and had met face to face, so much of our conversations took place on through communications like through the phone and through emails and through texts. And we could live in this sort of bubble. And when you live in a bubble with someone, you don't always see the reality. And it's easy when you get into a situation and you move really fast and you fall in love with the fantasy to ignore kind of the red flags that you're seeing around you and to discount behaviors or to not see them because you're kind of blinded by that love that you're moving towards and and that feeling that you have of like wanting to be with them. And for me, that choice led to us in a matter of like, we spent 10 days together and we were like, all right, we're moving in together. Yeah. I moved in with a guy after 10 days. And that relationship between the time it started and ended was a total of 9 months. And four of those months, we were long distance. And relationships that start fast can fizzle fast too. And when you make these kind of declarations to the public and you tell everyone, like, this is the guy I'm going to marry, because that's what I did. We're going to have this wedding. We're going to do this. I'm moving in. Everything's perfect. He's the perfect guy. And then into the relationship, you're like, you start to see these red flags and you're like, wait a minute, we don't share the same values. We don't share the same political beliefs. We don't value humans the same way. We don't value gender roles the same way. We don't value respect the same way. We don't value work the same way. When your values don't align, things get tricky. And then for me, it was hard because it was hard for me to leave because I had placed so much in me that believed that this was the relationship, that the thought of failure was like heartbreaking, earth shattering, like my dreams were crushed. That was a hard relationship to leave. It was fast, but it was very powerful because there was so much pressure on us to be this thing that when it failed, I felt like a fool. So when I see Christine doing this, I put myself back in that place and I'm like, I hope that doesn't happen to her. I just don't want her to experience what I did. Because when you are at that place and you feel like a fool, it's like you sit there and you kick yourself and you're like, how come I ignored this? Why did I ignore that? Why was I in a place that I made that decision? Why did I bypass everything in my life and change everything about me, pushing for what I thought I wanted because it was the opposite of what I had? And after that relationship, I went to therapy. And honestly, that's when my life changed. And so when I see Christine, I come from that hesitation. It's not because I don't like her, it's because I've had an experience where I have felt that very powerful love before and it fell apart. But on the flip side, I knew I loved my husband in the first 2 weeks. I knew that I wanted to marry him within a couple months. We were talking about getting married within 6 months of being together. We were engaged within a year and married a year and a half later. So I'm not going to be one to say that this won't work for Christine because in reality, she got married within a year. I got married within a year and a half. Who am I to say it's too fast? When you have the right partner and they complete who you are and you have the deep conversations and you know each other and you know what your values are and they all line up, it can be an amazing experience. And it doesn't matter how much time you have if it's the right person. So I've had both experiences and I've been married 14 years, together for almost 16 years, and we're fine. We love each other. I love my husband. And I hope that that's where she goes. I hope that's what she gets, that she has found her lobster. That's what I call my husband. He's my lobster. So I can see both sides. And I hope that she's on the side where, like me and my husband were like, everything worked out. You finally found the one, because that's what everyone deserves. So Christine, ring shopping feels fast and it feels fast in the timeline. But in reality, maybe she just found her Prince Charming and maybe she did find love. And maybe that's okay. And if it's not, that's okay too. What I don't like is that Kody gets to have an opinion on it. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed and click the bell so you never miss a video. Bye everyone.